Last regular season, the Miami Heat finished as the 8th seed. However, great playoff performances from Jimmy Butler and other key role players brought the Heat to the finals for the second time in 4 years. Ultimately, they've lost both times, but this offseason, the Heat wanted to add big. They set their eyes on Damian Lillard, and the match seemed perfect. Damian hinted going to Miami, and that was his preferred destination. The trade never worked out, so then they focused on Bradley Beal, whose number one option was also Miami. However, those trade talks didn't work out either, so he went to Phoenix. Finally, they made a push for Jrue Holiday, who ended up going to Boston. To make it worse, two key contributors of last year's team, Max Strus, signed with the Cavaliers, and Gabe Vincent signed with the Lakers. As a result, experts, betting websites, and analysts are all doing the same thing that they do every year, sleeping on the Miami Heat. This offseason, they signed Josh Richardson and Thomas Bryant, both who look to contribute as key members of the rotation this year. The starting five would look to be Kyle Lowry, the 37-year-old at point guard. We don't know how much gas he's got in him, but he's on an expiring contract. At shooting guard is going to be Tyler Hero, who returns to the Heat. All summer, Hero was involved in trade rumors, and it seemed like they wanted to trade him for Lillard. However, he returns to the team, so I'm curious to see how he does, as he also missed out on the team's playoff run that brought them all the way to the finals. At small forward, you have Jimmy Butler, obviously the star of this team, the guy who does it on both ends, the clutch shot maker, the face of the franchise. At power forward, Kevin Love. He's not as mobile or as good at defense, but if he provides rebounds and good shooting to this Heat team, he can be good enough to start at power forward. If not, they can opt to Caleb Martin. Although 6'5", he did a great job throughout the playoffs and the end of regular season, starting at the power forward. And in the 5 spot, Bam Adebayo. Last year, Bam averaged 20.7 points per game and earned his second All-Star selection. If Bam does make that jump and increase his scoring output, we could see a different type of Heat team. He has improved his offensive output, which is a sign in the right direction. However, I think Bam can make that next jump this year. However, the Heat season is going to be defined by their bench. First, let's talk about the guys that signed this offseason: Thomas Bryant and Josh Richardson. Richardson previously played for the Heat and was a part of the deal that actually got them Jimmy Butler. He's a pretty versatile guy, as he can play guard and wing, and he can defend pretty well along the perimeter and bring some much needed shooting to the team with a career 36.5% from 3. Thomas Bryant is going to serve as the main backup to Bam Adebayo at center. He's a pretty good offensive player for their center, although not the fastest or the best at defense. Thomas Bryant brings some solid center minutes to the Heat, something they didn't really have last year behind Bam Adebayo. Next, let's talk about Nikola Jovic, the young, unique, and tall second-year player. After a rookie season which was plagued by injuries, Jovic played for Serbia on their silver medal winning team in the FIBA World Cup. He averaged 10 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds, and also put on some muscle during the summer, weighing about 237 pounds now. And I think if he becomes a better finisher around the rim and becomes a more confident shooter, then we could see him have a breakout sophomore season. With the 18th pick in the draft, the Heat drafted Jaime Jaquez Jr., a 4-year player out of UCLA. Jaime Jaquez plays a little bit like Jimmy Butler in terms of his footwork. A lot of his skills and moves on the basketball court remind me of a guy who's been in the NBA for like 10 years. I really like what he can bring to this Heat team. He's definitely NBA ready, and his footwork and shot creation at the ball is very unique, and it's going to be very beneficial for the Heat off the bench. Although the team lost Max Strus to the Cavs in free agency, it's important to know they still have Duncan Robinson to fill that sharpshooter role. Over the past couple years, Duncan Robinson has been either a very important piece to non-factor of the Heat rotation. Whether Duncan Robinson is a major part of the Heat team in the future depends on one thing: his outside shooting. The percentage of looks he converts from beyond the arc could make Miami a very good team, as 3-point shooting is something the team has definitely struggled with over the past couple years, as their main 2 star players, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, shooting isn't really their forte. So a guy like Duncan Robinson, if he's able to hit a bunch of shots at a 38-39%, if not in the 40% from beyond the arc, with good volume and good efficiency like I mentioned, he could be very dangerous for the Heat. And look at Duncan Robinson playing 20 minutes every game just because of his great shooting ability. Haywood Highsmith is a guy I think is also going to contribute this season. He played a lot for the Heat down the stretch in the playoffs due to a lot of the injuries they were facing. He didn't get as many consistent minutes, but in the minutes he got, he proved what he can do. He's a good defender, embraces the Heat mentality, and that's exactly what the Heat want in one of their bench players. Over the past couple minutes, I've mentioned some guys that will be very important for the Heat: Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Haywood Highsmith, Caleb Martin. All these guys are a product of the Heat mentality and how the Heat develop players, where they can turn guys who practically no one has heard of and turn them into very serviceable role players. And some of these guys are getting paid. Like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent got some pretty good contracts to go play elsewhere, and the Heat have the perfect formula to plug and replace these guys. I've talked about these guys who can be very valuable to the bench, but what about the guys the Heat just took from nowhere and they will transform into the next good role player? I think on their roster currently, the Heat have 3 guys they can do this with. Starting off with RJ Hampton. So Hampton is actually a former first round pick that the Heat signed to a two-way deal. And why I think he's really intriguing is that he's only 22 and already played for 3 teams in his 3 seasons in the NBA. Like I mentioned, he's only 22 and the Heat don't have the best depth chart at point guard, so I actually think RJ Hampton could come in and play some backup point guard at some point in the season if the Heat develop him well. So much left in the tank for him and he had so much potential. I'm sure the Heat can figure him out really well and make him a contributing backup point guard for this team. As Kyle Lowry kind of ages and the expectation for him kind of drops, guys like RJ Hampton and Josh Richardson can pick up that duty at point guard. Next is another two-way guy, Cole Swider. Cole Swider also is on a two-way contract and he earned it from the Heat in the preseason. His main NBA skill is three-point shooting and he's a forward at 6'8", so a guy similar to Duncan Robinson's size, and while he's developing in the G League, I think the Heat are going to focus on improving other areas of his game. Undrafted out of Syracuse, he's 24 years old. I think he's going to follow in similar footsteps of Duncan Robinson and Max Strus, 2 guys that he developed who were also on two-way deals and became very good rotational players for them just for their three-point ability. Next, we have forward Jamal Cain, who's entering his second season on a two-way contract with the Heat after going undrafted last year. He's 24 years old and he represents depth at the forward spot for the Heat. He has a good combination of athleticism and size at 6'7" and 210 pounds, and he's improved as a defender and a three-point shooter over the past year, which makes him a candidate to get more NBA playing time at some point this season. Thank you guys for watching this video, where I talked about why I think the Miami Heat will still be fine, jumps from guys like Bam Adebayo, and also increased play from some of their good role players, and also some development from Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic, and also final 3 guys I think that could crack into the Heat rotation at some point in the year: RJ Hampton, Jamal Cain, and Cole Swider. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.